This episode of the Long Run Podcast is sponsored by Skechers.
Well, hello, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. It's Friday night. It's the Long Run live stream and podcast brought to you in association with Skechers and the 40 Runs running community. I'm Ian Wilson. Lovely to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. Tonight, we're going to be talking about training, overtraining, undertraining, finding that right balance in the middle training. So we're going to be talking about that in great detail. There's loads of other stuff to get stuck into. It's a big event in the FORDY calendar this week. It's the return of the Southend half marathon. Lots of people looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but more about that later. Chris, Toby, Al, all in the house. How are we all doing, fellas?
I'm a bit stuffed. I had a big dinner. But more importantly, just to let the, by the way, welcome everyone. Just to let the viewers and listeners know, we was arguing literally 5 seconds before Tobe cut us and stuck us live on air, is because we was arguing whether we needed special birthday opening for next week. So email us in this week at, what's the email, Wilco?
longrunshow@gmail.com.
Yeah, send us in an email with a vote. Do you want a special birthday? I mean, as you know by now, we spend a lot of time on this sort of stuff. So we want to make sure we get a really, really good opening for you next week for the birthday.
It's a bit of a collector's item that we've thought a week ahead about what we might actually do, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I put my hand out. It wasn't me that thought of it. But yeah, so email in at something.com, let us know. And as always, all you people who are watching and listening live, fire in your questions, whether it's in via. Are we on Facebook tonight, Toe? He's not sure. Oh no, he's not.
You can't just nod your head, Toby. You have to talk.
I'll get into the mute button.
It's an audio format, mate.
Yeah, and stick your questions on YouTube. We get your emails in. We've got, I think, if we get time, we'll get to a couple of emails this week as well. So thanks to everybody who keeps sending them into Wilco now, because they actually get read. And yeah, I'll come on to it because I'm very excited about everything, just everything really at the moment. Just
a note, you'll see there, if you're on Facebook at the moment, Toby's just put up a thing to click and log on to the chat, so that way we can see you, we get your names and everything, and we can give you a name check as well if you say something pertinent or amusing or downright outrageous. We'll be able to give you a name check.
Just how tidy my room is, I think.
No, it's not tidy, baby. And by the way, for anybody who's watching live on the pod, you won't know, but Tobe's got a box that says fragile behind him. And yeah, and in that is some secret stuff that he won't let anybody know what is in there. So if you know,
it's lazy calf, is it?
No, it's not his lazy calf. If you've got any idea what's in that fragile box behind Toby, send an email into Wilco.
longrunshow@gmail.com.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. We'd be very interested. I reckon it's food. But there we go.
I don't know what it is, to be honest. I can't remember.
That's what it is. How are you, Al?
Yeah, super excited, like Chris says. Big event coming up this weekend. 4 years ago, it transformed my life. But enough said about that.
That is a bold statement.
You can't
just leave that hanging.
Well, it's the Southend half, and that was the first time I ever met Chris at the finish line.
The bromance began.
Beautiful.
June 2018 was when my life took a turn for the...
yeah.
Took a turn.
It took a turn out. I think that's the right way to
turn and then double back and park up.
You've never looked back. Is that what you're saying?
Have you seen the thing that someone just wrote on about you, Wilco? You've still got your box of cash in that Nike box.
I think that's Billy, isn't it?
If you're listening on
the
pod,
and bigger.
Last week, I picked up on Wilco because he's in his new gaff. He's got this, 8-bedroom mansion in Stansted Abbots. He's got on the side there this box of Nike, a Nike box. And I wonder if it was Alpha Flies, and he said no. There's something private in there. So, yeah, I'm with you.
No, it's far less serious than that. It's just sort of like electricity.
No, Wilco, you can't dig yourself out of this hole. We know.
Wallpaper samples. after what he just told us.
Definitely rolls the 50s in there. 100%.
Perhaps we should auction it off, the content of Wilco's orange Nike box.
Yeah, do it for charity. I'm up for that. And Toby's fragile box. It's a bit of a lucky dip.
I'm feeling a bit left out. I haven't got a box. I need to get a box.
We need to get a box.
Mystery box.
Yeah, that would be quite good, eh? What's his
Right, I just wanted to give a shout out to a couple of people. First to, I know we're getting to Southend. Chloe Lane is doing her 100th park run on Saturday at Thurrock. I think they're going, aren't they?
Down to Thurrock, yeah.
Yeah,
all the best to her. She was a great guest when she came on, big friend of the show.
We looked on that in terms of mileage, trying to get to it, but with Southend on Sunday, we just couldn't make it work. Otherwise, we'd have been with you. But we are with you 100% in spirit on Saturday, 100%.
And I also wanted to share with everybody this review that we got. You can review us on your
please do.
Please do on your podcast provider of choice, whether it's Amazon, Apple, Spotify. We're on all those. Anyway, we got this lovely one from Rich from Liverpool. It's quite pertinent about what we were talking about last week and our less than satisfactory trip to the Edinburgh Marathon. He said, I was giving up running after the Edinburgh Marathon, totally despondent with my running time. Then I listened to the podcast. They helped me cope and made me realise that sometimes it is the event and the organisers and not me and my running. And P.S. apologies for me. Chris will remember this because he brought it up in conversation when he was talking about his run. I think I was the man who stopped dead running in the road at one point. Sorry, I was dying. All the best, Rich from Liverpool. So
it could have been. It could have been. Big shout out. But he obviously felt the pain as well. I think that we all felt. I've got to give a shout out to our listener from last week in Botswana. I hope you're listening again. We're now the biggest running podcast in Botswana. So welcome back. Keep spreading the word. Marley was on the list as well this week. So we're gaining new ground, new territory, boys. We are slowly but surely taking over. I mean, I'm not being funny, but who would listen to this? You got to think yourself.
All the way from Timbuktu.
You know what I mean? Why would... Well, I don't know. Anyway, I struggle to wonder why everybody listens to it over here, let alone in Marley.
People who know us. I don't know why they've been
loving us.
Jesus.
There's a guy running every country in the world, like Nick Butter done. It's the same guy going around the world in different countries and just downloading the same podcast. So there's probably no more listeners. It's just this one sad soul.
So, well, if that is you, email in at something.com and tell us
email.com.
Yeah, tell us what and where you are and who you are.
Yeah, and we'll get you a statue built on Hartham in Hertford or at Southend Seafront or somewhere.
Yeah, we'll get you a statue built outside of HQ if you've gone around here. Mrs. Ford,
how do you think Mrs. F would react to that?
It might make the grass out the front look a bit better. I think I might have moved.
You try to cover it, you have to cut it.
No, I cut it and I sort of might overcut. But don't tell her. I don't think she noticed. She don't listen, so it don't matter. Oh, blimey, we've got loads of people already sticking stuff in. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. Keep it coming in. And if you're new to the podcast, just as a heads up, we record these absolutely live, probably to the detriment of you, the listener. But we record these live. We don't cut, edit it. It goes out as it comes. And we take on the interaction from people who are watching live, listening live on YouTube and Facebook. So that's who I'm saying. Big shout out. So thanks, everybody who's...
Yeah, it might not sound too polished at times, in fact, at all. But that's because, we are taking in comments from our viewers on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah,
and it can get a little bit chatty and a little bit, we can go off at tangents and all stuff like that. But that's just the way we do things. So
that's the way we roll. It's the way. That's what gets us so highly rated in Botswana. Right. So have we got anything that we want to tackle in the comments before we get into whatever we're going to get into? I can't remember what it was. Oh, got to give a shout out to Skechers before we do that. Hang on. A bit of a quiz amongst us before we start, because who was his name? Here he goes. Hang on. Where was he? Stay here. Bear with me, people. I'm just getting a comment up from YouTube. Right. So Daniel Fisher, hopefully Daniel, you're listening live, made a comment that my new Skechers looks like something a nan would wear. So, boys, I'm holding up the new Go Run Ride 10, which I think looks awesome. Do you think that's something your nan would wear? Well, yes, no, Al?
She's been dead for 37 years, so probably not.
Unlikely. Okay, and in my hand, by the way, is a grey-red version of the shoe, which looks amazing.
So what other versions they got then, mate? What other colours?
They've got a wicked black, like a black camo colour with a white bottom, but I like this. Toe,
Yeah, I
what do
quite
you
like
think?
them.
Was this something your nan would wear?
I would wear anything though. I'd
Yes,
wear
she
'em.
would. Yeah, Toe would wear them. I'm not sure whether that's good advice or bad advice, to be perfectly honest with you. And Wilco, finally, a man who was dedicated for years to Brooks, but we turned him to the
Mr.
dark
Brooks.
side.
I'd give them a spin. I quite like them. Yeah, they
I'll
look
tell
all
you
right.
what, in all seriousness, they're so comfortable. They are so comfortable.
And what are they going to be retailing at, mate?
I think they're 130 quid. And got to give Skechers a shout out because they get hammered for not having any availability for their running shoes on the website. The Razor XS2, Go Run Ride 10, it's all on their website. So they are on there. So fair play to them. So get over. What is it? Skechers.co.uk. So Tobe's got something that he puts up on the screen. But yeah, big shout out to them because but I just thought it was quite a funny comment that they're saying his name would wear. Right, Al. Oh yeah, Blade and Races. Everybody, Northeast Warriors. Big shout out for the Blade and Race. Al, have you ever thought about doing that? That's on my bucket list, the Blade and Race.
No, it's a simple
Not one
answer.
for you.
It's too close to the GNR. Not in terms of timescale. It's just location.
Geographically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a black. Just for me, there's just a bit of the country that doesn't exist, and it's kind of called the Northeastern Territory.
Oh God, that's all we need. That's it.
Oh no, now he's upset half our listeners.
We've alienated the whole of the Northeast.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry,
ignore
guys.
that. If we could edit it out, we would. But I really fancy the Blade and Race because of the historic nature to it, and just the vibe looks amazing.
Well, I mean, if anybody's done the Great North Run and realised that the atmosphere is unlike any other race I've ever done, it's brilliant. And
No,
I'd
Blade and
imagine
Race
it's
is just-
exactly the same for that. So
yeah, no, but apparently you have to sell like your mother's best jewelry to get into it or something. So I've got Ian. I know everybody at the Blade and Races, Wilson, on the case to get me a spot. He's he's like the mafia
he's
up
the
there.
man.
He runs the gaff.
he's
So,
Northeast royalty, mate. He'll get you.
So he's going to sort me out. So yeah, big shout out to anyone. So Al, what have we got in the comments, questions coming through?
Yeah, we've already had quite a few questions. So I don't know what's got people going this week, but let's jump into them. Super Chappy 1992. Quality or quantity when it comes to training?
Should we hit that off when we do overtraining?
Could do.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Let's do that when we do that.
Okay, we've got another one then that we can park up for that. Facebook user wants to know about tinkering with your taper. I think that could come into the overtraining question. So let's go to Chris.
Did you tinker with your taper too much?
Did you tinker with your taper?
That's a bit that, well, look, that's aimed at me specifically. I don't know who that's from. Love the content, very emotional. Thank you very much. No is the answer to that. But what I do think on reflection is that Hackney in the heat may have taken more out of my legs than I expected. Although I ran it easy, super easy, if you watch the Hackney video. And we took it even easier when, unfortunately, someone was receiving medical help on the side. We basically stopped and walked for the last mile and a bit. But I do believe that the heat might have taken something extra out of my legs. In terms of the taper, the reason I still believe that I blew up in Edinburgh, apart from the stitch, was that I should never have raced up to Scotland at 5 o'clock in the morning on the day before. And I should have eaten better in the evening. So that's probably a lot to do with it. Also, and I've been researching this week because I don't know if anybody else is suffering, but I've been suffering majorly with hay fever and allergies and stuff like that. And it was Nick reminding me that I was suffering quite a lot the week before. If anybody can relate to that, it does have an impact on you because it's basically inflammation within your body. So I do wonder if that had an impact, especially on the head surgery that I had. That was a good point that was made to me. That could have, with everything that I had done up there, ear, nose and throat, could have led something up that I wasn't aware of, which is interesting in terms of up there. So, yeah, so that's down to that. So, no, I don't think my taper was that. I always have done a half marathon. For example, I did a half marathon before I ran 3:48 at Dorney. So, no, is the answer to that. But thank you very much for the lovely comment. Right, next.
Yeah, so Chris has been a bit cheeky. He's gone for a two-parter. So his is what would you recommend as average mileage for training for a sub-4 marathon? Looks like he's targeting London in the autumn. And is the Speed 2, I assume he's talking about the Dolphin Speed 2s, a good marathon trainer? So a cheeky two-parter there.
I'll tell you what, should we break it up? I'll do the trainers, you do the mileage.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Speed 2, marathon trainer, yeah. Just watch that they're not too unstable for you. That Power Run PB is soft. Tobe can, I think, say as much as me about that. It is a soft shoe if you're not used to it. It's got a TPU plate in it, so it's more flexing than the Pro, which has got a slightly firmer ride to it. It's an unbelievable shoe if it works for you, like all the shoes out there. But if, in particular with the Speed, it can rock you about a bit. But it is a phenomenal shoe. So you can probably concur on the Speed.
Yeah, I think that's definitely. And I still quite like the Speed up to about a half marathon.
Yeah,
anything over that,
it's too much.
You go Pro, and depends on the surface you're running on.
I remember I did a 20-mile run in my Speed 2s. You remember, Tobe? My hamstrings were like popping out of my eyes. We did. All right, we was getting down the rivers. It's a little bit unstable versus if it was just on, nice flat tarmac. But it was so painful. It was just pulling on all everything. Because I've got a little bit of pronation. So just watch it. Great show. Al, mileage. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to make some assumptions here, Chris. The fact that you're targeting a sub 4, I'm going to assume you've run one before. So you probably know that you should be running, I think, minimum of 4 times a week as a starter. We're going to touch slightly on the answer to the question about quantity over quality as well on this one. If I had a client running less than 30 miles a week, I'd be worried that you're not getting in the mileage in terms of your long, slow runs. And when you combine that, I'd be wanting you to do some speed sessions. Are you getting enough easy runs in? So it's not so much about the total mileage. I think it's also about the balance. So 40 miles plus a week, I think, is a good benchmark. But then it's also about the mix of miles. So it's making sure you're getting a bit of speed work, some hills, some intervals, as well as doing plenty of long, slow, easy runs. So for me, I'd be wanting to talk to you about your combination of runs and looking at that rather than having an absolute figure on the number. But you've got to respect the distance. To be out there running 4 hours, you've got to put in enough miles in that 12, 14, 16 week plan where you're going to get up beyond 30 to 40. If you can do 50, excellent, because it's not going to do you any harm if you're training correctly, is the caveat to that.
Well, Chris, I hope that helps, mate. That was pretty comprehensive advice from the fella.
Stuff. Sorry, I was just busy. We had a question from David on YouTube. Can we challenge Toby to run sub 22 park running Crocs? David, I'm just literally ordering them now. I kid you not.
What colour?
Black, so they don't match your blue shorts.
See, that wouldn't have been my first question.
No, exactly, right? Yeah, I would have said, are you taking the... And you can... But he's gone, what colour? I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about Speedcoat. Al, there's still loads coming in.
I know, I literally cannot keep up. So
there was one I saw... TK runs my first marathon at Edinburgh, survived it, didn't like to get to running to get the park and ride. Park and ride was pony, # Edinburgh Marathon, never again. Mike, who I think first time listening live, thanks mate, have a good run. I'm right, I'm not going to have anything to listen to. Yeah, good lad. Was there anything I've watched the Edinburgh T-Run 31? Thanks for watching the video. Anybody who's watched that Edinburgh vlog, actually, thanks very much. And everybody who watched the race, the plane versus train, where we mucked about as well. Thank you. I had some amazing feedback, loads of views on those. So thanks to everybody who's watched them. Right, Al, what else have we got?
I'm going to target Gary Howland. Evening, guys. What's your best exercises you can advise for strength and conditioning to go with your marathon training? So
that's yours, Al. Before you start, I would just point him out to the HIT session we've got, which again is really popular on our YouTube channel. It's like a 20-30 minute HIT session done by a PT. You can do that in the living room. Check that out. Outside of what Al's going to tell you, because what Al's going to tell you is like proper stuff. But if you only got 20-30 minutes, jump on YouTube, watch that video like the other 50,000 people have. And that might help you if you're looking for a quick fix. But Al, without boring the guy to death,
okay, How long we got left, Wilco? 40 minutes.
No, being
Yeah, I'm
serious,
going out
listen,
as well,
Gary,
so
'cause this is
crack
going to
on.
be good advice. Listen.
Right. So the bottom line is, you need to be targeting the group of muscles that you might read if you're kind of Googling is referred to as your posterior chain. So think below the waist at the back of your legs. So hamstrings, calves, stuff like that. Exercises that are good for that are squats and lunges. So it doesn't have to be overly technical. So that's stuff that you can start with body weight and then build up by adding weights into your actual movements. If you've got access to a gym and some barbells, then Romanian deadlifts are good. But things just as simple as standing on the stairs doing calf raises will all help just build those muscles. What I'd also say is don't forget the rest of your body. So your core is key in terms of retaining form, because at mile 18, mile 20, you're going to be a bit knackered. You start to collapse your technique, your form drops, you start to lose capacity in your lungs, and even down to work in your upper body. You know, we talk when we coach about arm drive. So having the muscle there to be able to ensure you've got good form all the way through your marathon is key. So for me, when I'm developing a plan for people, I try and do an overall structured body workout, but start with those hamstrings, calves, and quads would be my advice with those.
And I suppose we could now go on to the problems that I've had in the last week, really, because we've just obviously we did Edinburgh, and then I went out for my second run last Saturday. I've had an ache in my calf for quite a few weeks, and long and short of it was that in an attempt to avoid a hissing goose going along the river, I put a bit of a spurt on, and my calf went pop, and I went to the physio, and she said to me that the reason for it was because my posterior chain wasn't strong enough. My left glute is 35% less stronger than my right one. I have literally run a marathon half-assed, but what happened was that my calf and my Achilles were taking up too much of the burden of the run-in because my muscle wasn't strong enough. So now I've got 2 weeks on the bench. I won't be able to go to Southend, but I've got resistance bands and exercises to strengthen that side up. So hopefully I won't be out too long. But the good thing is, the good thing is that, well, the timing is pretty good because it's timing that I should be slowing down anyway. And also, it's alerted me to the issue. And now I think when I'm starting again, if there's any sort of if I get any niggle in that sort of area, then I'll think, oh, I know what that is. I know what the problem is. And then I can work on strengthening it to avoid it getting to the stage it's got to this time.
I do have a question for you, Wilco. And it's a little bit deliberate in terms of being annoying. So don't panic. Oh, you can't. I'm not there. Wasn't you doing some form of like strength and conditioning work, like with somebody before Edinburgh? So wasn't that working? That so what was you paying? What? All right, you might not be paying, but clearly they weren't doing the right things.
Well, maybe I wasn't doing enough.
I don't know. I'm not being deliberately antagonistic.
No. Oh no, it's all, it was, but then maybe I wasn't doing enough, or perhaps putting in the effort that I should have done. It's all sort of like an educational sort of thing. The teaching wasn't. There's nothing wrong with that.
Interesting.
But I do go.
I remember you doing it. Yeah. By the way, update on the viewers. I've ordered the Crocs in black. FORDY, have you tested the new Pegasus Trail 4 video drops Wednesday? It's all locked and loaded, so this coming your way on Wednesday. What else have we got, Al? We've got a lot.
Yeah, we've had a question about math running. So it's from
we're going to do a heart rate special, aren't we?
Well, you've given the answer away already, but yeah.
Yeah.
Heart rate zones and running to heart rate comes up a lot. So I think that probably does warrant a bit of a dedicated session when we've got space in the calendar.
Week after birthday week, we could do that. I did a video about something along these lines about paces. Do you remember, Toe? We was talking about it in terms of zone 2. We did a zone 2 run. If anybody wants to watch that, I can't remember. It's in one of the weekly vlogs. Tobe and I went out and I tried it, but I failed epically. Shock. But I made him run for zone 2 for 20 miles. Watch that. We explain a little bit about math. There's a few formulas that they use to work your zones out and stuff like that in that video. Check it out. It's on the channel. And it's free for everybody. What?
I'm still convinced you did that so you can run alongside me longer.
Oh, it's so
And
annoying.
chat to me for even
I just
longer.
annoyed him for 4 hours. It's brilliant. How should you approach building Ollie P? Welcome to the show, Ollie P. How should you approach building back up after 3 weeks not running because of injury, which is now 100% healed? That's good. That you're running 60 to 70k a week. What's that? 40, 50 mile, isn't it? 40 mile?
40 miles, I think.
Yeah, 40 miles. How should you be bringing back? I'll just do a little bit on this, if that's all right. Firstly, Ollie, I would start by getting your frequency. So find your patterns. Get back to finding that consistency of running on the days that you were running, but super easy, just a little bit, and just find that consistency and find your patterns. When you're then comfortable in terms of that and you've established those patterns and established that consistency, then you can start stepping on distance, stepping on pace, and start. It was brilliant. One of my clients today, Steve, big shout out. He said next week we was talking about. He said he's going to sprinkle some pace into the week, which I thought was a great terminology. And I would recommend doing the same. So I would just find your patterns, find your consistency. Don't overdo it. Don't go, I'm going to go and run 6 miles because my leg feels all right or whatever. You're injured. No, tone it down, keep it safe, keep it sensible, and just find that consistency and find the rhythm of of getting back out there training. Al, anything to add?
No, I think you've nailed it in terms of keep it easy. We always talk about the 80-20 rule. The temptation is perhaps to go out and see where you're at, but just build it slowly and consistently. Wise words, I think.
Last one, and then we're moving on to overtraining, I think, or whatever Wilco's decided he's going to talk about today. Al, what exercises would you recommend I do whilst recovering from an injured knee?
Tricky one, because it depends on what the actual injury is. I'm going to go back really to the point that Wilco made, that quite often knee injuries are a consequence of having weak spots elsewhere in the body.
100%.
Whether it be glutes or your hamstrings or 100%. Your calves. But it's where the knee is kind of taking the load and the impact that causes the problem. So in terms of the physio, I think I have to leave that to the experts in terms of how you build the knee up. But when you're at a position to have the confidence to know that you've got enough strength in your knee that you're not going to do permanent damage, it should be looking at those groups of muscles that support your running that will then prevent the knee injury reoccurring. And I think that's the key thing in terms of 100%. Knee injury is often a consequence of having weaknesses elsewhere in our posterior kind of lower body. So
whenever one of my runners says, I've got a knee, achy knee, I've got. You always ask at the start of the session, anyone got any injuries? Yeah, my knee. It's classic. Chances are it's not the knee. It's probably the IT band, or it could be the calf. That's something's pulling on something.
Well, it sounds odd to say, hit those squats and hit those lunges.
Yeah,
but that's targeting the muscles. What will take the strain away from the knee.
Mm. Yeah, no, he's. Oh, good news, guys. We've converted somebody away from Brooks. I think we've been Robert Hallam. Love my new Endorphin Pro 2s. You're welcome. I've been converted away from Brooks. He's moved away from 1987, like Wilco did. Well done, Wilco.
Oh, Stranger Things is back, mate. 1987's back.
Oh, is it? Are they all wearing Brooks?
Yeah, loads of them. Like Wimbledon's with John McEnroe on them.
Yeah, quality. God, we've batted through a lot of them, boys. You've done well there. Very well.
Well, we didn't do that. They did well.
Yes. Keep them coming, people. Keep them coming. Last week, right, we had record numbers watching this live. Again, thank you to everybody. Still blows our mind that you've got nothing better to do on a Friday. But thanks to everybody.
Everybody had a street party as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we was generally expecting last week for like just the four of us to be on here chatting rubbish like usual. So thanks. But yeah, we had a record number of people tuning in live. Keep spreading the word, people. It's still amazing at races and events that we go to where people come up and say love the pod and stuff like that. We get loads of comments and that, and it generally means a lot to us. So yeah, thanks very much. Right, okay. So overtraining, undertraining. What are we? Or do you want to do something else, Wilco?
No, you crack on, mate.
Well, no, you should start. No. So we wanted to talk about that this week because Some marathon training starts on Monday. If you're training for London, for example, your 16-week plan pretty much starts next week, roughly. It's interesting, timely that TCS London Marathon, our friends at London Marathon Events, big shout out to them, sent out a free plan, I think it was today. I didn't pay any attention to it because it's not written with most people in mind, from my understanding. But yeah, they sent that out for everybody today. So it sort of signals the start of marathon training for London. And it made us think about some really good, interesting points. And Al and I have been chatting about it this week about overtraining and undertraining. Now, if you've got no idea what we're talking about, overtraining and undertraining are like symptoms of during a course of a training block. And actually, when you come to the race itself, you could be on either side of the argument, so to speak. There are kind of, Al, would you say signs of overtraining, like being knackered, not really sleeping, lack of energy, not really feeling it, and just, sort of not really loving life while you're doing a training block. But the tendency with undertraining is you don't really see the results of that until the day. Usually is where I'm thinking. Now, you got anything to add in terms of what they actually are?
No, I think your description of overtraining is spot on. As I said, it's that general fatigue, that tiredness, inability to focus, not getting to sleep. That can be all sorts of different reasons. But overtraining, ticks all those symptoms and boxes as well.
But I do think people tend to use it as an excuse for stuff. They do tend to go with no basis on knowing what they're talking about. Oh, you must have been overtraining. Well, you don't really know, what I'm overtraining or who's overtraining, or am I actually undertrained? Because to get to on race day, in what I'm talking about now, to get there in a position where you're actually sweet in the middle of overtraining, undertraining, so you're in peak condition, because that's what we try and achieve through any block of training, whether it be Couch to 5K 6-week program, whether it be 16-week or 18-week, whatever, marathon training block. The idea is that you arrive on race day in the peak physical condition that you can be mentally and physically, and that you have neither undertrained or overtrained. You're absolutely in a sweet spot. And that probably only happens maybe once or twice if you're dead lucky. There's always, because we're not, and it beggars belief, but we're not finely tuned professional elite athletes. I know that's going to shock a lot of people out there, right? That we are not finely tuned elite full-time athletes, right? Who can nail it and really work a lot of the data, really work a lot of the other stuff. We've all got lives. We've all pretty much probably got families or commitments and whatever. So we do running for our own reasons, mental health, whatever, right? So it's very difficult for us to peak absolutely at the right time. That is why, if you listen to Dina Asher Smith, for example, great reference, because she was on TV today talking about the fact she's got the Europeans, she's got the Commonwealth, she's got everything coming at her in the summer. And she's got a peak at the right time for those races. And it was the same. She had it in Tokyo and stuff like that. And it is that point of being, not overtrained, but not undertrained. And usually I would say you're better off being if you're going to be anywhere, you're going to be slightly undertrained is probably the best side of the argument to be. You don't want to be fatigued on race day. And I do think, and I have found that to find that balance, you do need to do a few blocks of training to get the experience and what works for you. And it's a really good reference point back to whoever said to me about my taper. I've worked out over the years, the marathons that I've done, that a 2.5 week taper works for me with a 13-mile run the week before. That's just what works for me, because I kind of figured out, and like as I said, apart from Edinburgh, most of the time I've hit the targets I wanted to hit. Again, I'm not some like super ninja here. I've done this through trial and error from Edinburgh, so which I'll learn from. Like as I said, with Hackney, maybe that was too hot, whatever. But yeah, it's a fine balance of overtraining and undertraining.
Is there anything you can do that isn't trial and error? Is there any sort of like things that you can help to speed up the process if you're Because I mean, I don't know how many you've done. A number of, you've obviously done a number of big races and a number of quite a few marathons as well. For someone like myself who's going to be approaching like my third marathon, I'm now thinking, right, okay, well, I did the first one to prove that I could do it, and then I've done the second one to prove that I could do it again, and it wasn't a fluke. And now I want to push on and think about how I can make a genuine improvement, not necessarily on the day of the time on the day, but make the day perhaps a more pleasurable experience and get more out of it and improve the journey along the way as well. Is there any way that you can are there any tips you can give people to help them do that rather than just, oh, well, you've just got to try and see what
slog
happens?
it out? Al, do you want to jump in at the front?
Well, for someone like yourself, Wilco, that's now, as you said, you've done your first one, you've done your second one, you're now thinking about where does my marathon journey go? Because it is so, the balance is so fine, and you've only got to look at the elites. They're going to be measuring every metric possible to try and make sure they hit that sweet spot. And there is a reason why the elites only do 2 or 3 marathons a year, is because it's bloody hard work. But where I was going is I'm an advocate of using pen and paper. So for those of you that are watching, I'm kind of waving my pencil and saying, record it. Record your runs, write down your feelings, write down stuff that you can go back and reflect on and see what worked, not just on any given, but over a period of time. So look for those trends. Talking to some clients today, he works various shifts. We're starting to adjust his training to recognise that depending on where his shift pattern lands, depends on how his training is going to go. Because again, what we're really talking about is getting those quality sessions in, so that when you're looking across your 120 days or your 16 weeks and however many runs you've done, you've got as many quality sessions as you can versus, just doing them for the sake of it and piling up the junk miles. So, that's where I want my clients to be is having that data. And it's not quite the same as being on Strava, because I think you've got to get it out of your head down somewhere to be able to sit back and reflect.
Yeah, it's Al's right. I mean, not everyone can afford a coach, right? So it's hard to, bounce off of, a coach or with somebody like-minded. I don't know, like somebody else who knows what they're talking about. It's very difficult. But for somebody who's like a solo runner out there, maybe you're training for London, and you, like you say, Wilco, you're in your third go. What Al's saying is right. Is focusing this time on the quality. The first one, you just got it done and you followed the plan, whatever. Second one, you was looking to tweak a few bits because you wanted to improve your time, and you should have learned from that, and you should have hopefully then realized, oh, actually, that did work, and that didn't work. So now take that information and then think about the quality. It's always better to do quality over quantity. So, there was a question earlier about mileage. Well, it's all relative, isn't it? If you're going to run like 100 miles a week, but it's all junk, what's the point? Yeah, you're going to have time on feet. And they do say, some people, that, more mileage makes you faster, all this sort of stuff. But over the last few years, it's been proven that actually less mileage, but higher quality has been proven to be the secret sauce.
Can you just expand on what you mean by higher quality?
So instead of just going out and going, right, I've got 5 miles on the plan today, I'm just going to go and run 5 miles. No, we're going to do half a mile warm up. We're going to then put, 3 miles at goal pace. Then I'm going to do 2 miles. I don't know if it's probably got my maths wrong. And I'm going to do a mile at easy zone 2, whatever. So you're getting something out of the run in terms of making sure that it's effective and it's achieved something. So not just, it's intervals today. Everyone loves to throw in, I'm going to do intervals today. They don't actually know how to do intervals properly. A lot of people do intervals and they do them too slow. It's out and out speed. So make sure when you do an interval session, that you're doing an interval session and not just fast jogging them. So you really are attacking it, and you are, maybe if you're working to your heart rate, you are up in zone 5 and you are pushing it and you are covering the correct distance in which that you've been instructed to do, because chances are that would have been put into a plan to make sure that it's going to achieve something. Maybe it's 400-meter repeats for that week, and and it's you're stretched out to 800 the following week. But there'll be a reason. So you get the most out of that session, and you you actually put the most input into it instead of just half-assed doing it, which we can all be guilty of, myself included, because you're in a marathon training block or a half marathon training block, not to, or Couch to 5K. It's all relative. But if you're going at this, whatever training run you're doing, it's a training run there because you're looking to improve to the end result. So make sure you do maximize it and don't do what you probably did in your first block when you did it, which was just get the miles done, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're just out there to complete whatever distance you've signed up for and you need to train for it, and it's your first one, absolutely, 100%. But if you're getting to that point where you're looking to improve, then you need to focus in on certain things and make sure that those things, when you are trying to improve them, are done. And the only way you can do that is by committing to it and doing them with a high quality and high conviction. Fair point, Al?
Yeah, I'd just add to that in terms of you might, if you've been doing some reading around the subject, you may hear people talking about running in the grey zone. And in effect, what that means is we don't run the fast runs fast enough. And I think Chris has already touched on that in terms of when you're doing intervals, you should be pushing yourself into zone 4 and zone 5 if you use that as a metric. And conversely, we don't run the slow runs slow enough. So if you're looking at your goal pace, take a minute, take 90 seconds off if you're running, to minute miles. And it blows people's mind when you say you need to run slower to run faster, but it's well proven.
So true.
And that's where the quality comes in. So, rather than running everything in that average, differentiate. And I talk to my clients about thinking about your gears. If you're driving just in third gear all the time, that's not the best way to drive. Sometimes you need to be in first, you accelerate into second. Once you hit the motorway, go gear 5. But I think that's where the quality starts to come in. Once you've kind of had that experience of knowing what works for you across a training plan.
But it is a fine balance because, like as we say, if you've got a plan in front of you and then you start crushing all of those runs, then you're going to go into that point of overtraining. Yeah. So that's why we go back to this thing. It is like a balancing act. And to be perfectly honest with you, you won't know until you've done probably 1 or 2 blocks where you're at. But our point, and I think our message from today is that just be aware of whether you're overtraining or undertraining. If you have that in the back of your mind before you set off onto a plan, that you're not going to be overtraining, like I'm chasing mileage, chasing speed, chasing distance. Getting someone today, I said, they said I'm going to do 10K. I said, no, run for 60 minutes. Run for 60 minutes and run it easy. Don't try and run 10K, chasing distance, chasing. We're so het up. I think, and this is it's probably a good topic for another day, but we're so het up on what we put down on Strava, and what, the data that we put down. Forget it. Go and run 9.98 kilometers. That'll screw everybody up on Strava. You see, look, Toby's face straight away. He's like freaking out, but it's true. We're so caught up on this cocaine, drug, crystal meth of Strava that we're all addicted to. Don't be. Focus on your plan. Focus on your end goal. Not even whether it's this race, whatever race that you actually got your eye on in terms of not necessarily a time, but completing the distance. Forget times. It's not all about times all of the time. Yeah, it's sometimes it's just purely about getting out there and running for a purpose, and whatever purpose that is. So don't be caught up on that Strava drug, people. I don't think Strava are going to support us after I just sort of made them sound like a drug. Anyway, but if you do want to sponsor us, Strava, email is something.com.
And we will
ask you for a lot of money to sponsor the channel, no doubt. Can I just give a shout out to somebody, because I've just seen it in the comments. I think it's very, very worth pointing out to Anthony Ferris. It's his first live. And he's made a very good observation that Toby looks knackered, and his other half reckons that he looks like Christian Bale from The Machinist. I actually concur on that. 1, Toby does look knackered, and 2, he does look like Christian Bale in that film. So, Toby, have you seen that
different
film?
People, though.
What is it?
The names on YouTube are different people.
Oh, right. But either way, they're still hammering you, which brings joy to my heart.
I'll take it as a compliment.
What? Have you seen the film?
No, I'm taking it as a compliment.
Watch the film before you take a compliment, because I don't think they're being complimentary, just as a bit of a heads up.
More importantly, Chris, how Our American listeners want to know what knackered means.
Yeah, apologies.
have to
That's my
tell me.
estuary English. So for you guys who are in Mali and stuff, estuary English is where, because I got dragged up by the Thames, and there's some phrases that we use. Knackered equals tired or feeling fatigued. Generally, knackered. Knackered yard. You've ever heard of knackered yard, what they say to the horses? Surely you must have heard of that. Sorry about that. It's my Cockney roots.
Now, before we
right.
move on, can I just? We've got we're obviously talking about marathon plans and things. We had a good email that probably links into all this.
Oh,
That I wanted to alert you from Ben. He says he's got
Ben
a
is
question
running.
on marathon training.
I'll be worried if Ben's emailing us in about marathon questions.
Not Ben is running. No.
How can you go quicker than 2:20? Yeah.
Yeah, how can I run 2:15? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, don't ask us, mate. He says, I have a solid half base. Usually do 1.5 a month, perhaps 2, and feel like I go out and run a half any day. I usually do a minimum of 30 to 35 miles a week, up to 50 on event weeks. My question is, would I do a marathon plan right from the start, taking my running back down a bit? Or would I start my training midway through the plan or do a shorter plan? I don't really have any idea. I've only done one marathon, London last year, in just under 5 hours, and I just followed the standard beginner plan, although I wasn't at the same level I'm at now.
Which reference my point to the email from TCS Marathon. Everybody's got that, but that plan doesn't. That's why I dug them out a bit, because it doesn't. Just because you get that, it doesn't mean it's going to fit you, people. So just be aware of it. Okay, they send that out and they do that, but just please be aware of it, because there is people, like, who is it? This email's from Jack
Ben.
or someone. Ben, there you go. Tells you how good my memory is. I'm like, what's that fish on?
Goldfish.
Finding Nemo. What's her name?
Dory.
There you go. Yeah, so you know what? I've seen this a lot the last couple of weeks. This question about I'm at so and so level, but my marathon training block starts this week. What am I meant to do, kind of thing? And it is interesting because there's two schools of thoughts. Yeah, you pick up your marathon track. Firstly, if you've got wait for it, if you've got a tailored training plan, see where I'm going now. This would have taken this into effect. So if you've gone down that road, but I appreciate not everyone can afford that. But that's the benefit of having a personalised plan, is that you can take that into account. But I appreciate money, right? So you could either go into it at a different level, or personally, I would always go back and reset and follow the plan. There is a reason why most of these plans are 16, 18 weeks, right? It's a slow, gradual climb, 10%. We've just spoke about overtraining and stuff like that. Just use those runs to just sort of solidify where you're at, your position where you're at. You're not going to lose any fitness from going back. And if anything, you're going to have the confidence and the belief in what you're doing, because you know you're slightly superior to where you're starting. So just go back a little step, enjoy the sort of effective down weeks of it, and just go with the plan, go with the flow. There is a reason that plan is 16 weeks. Follow that journey, and it should hopefully get you to that peak in the best condition. If you go too early on it, we go back to what we've just spoke about, overtraining, and that's your danger. Al, anything to add?
Yeah, like you've said, I think I would always recommend going back and starting again, but based on that evaluation. So you've run your first marathon, reflect back on what worked, what didn't, take into account how life played out. So we don't know what constraints you got. We're not quite sure how many days a week you can run and whether that's changed. And I'd reference you back to some of the conversation we've had already about making sure that plan has enough quality sessions in, whether that's, building in the speed, dropping in hills and elevation, or making sure you've got enough easy runs, low heart rate runs. And I think having done the marathon, you've got through it, hopefully you could have a look at some of those plans and start to tweak the standard to see, which areas you think you need to improve. Because, to use one of my favourite quotes ever, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. So if you want to improve, if you want to, tweak what you've done and get better, you kind of have to look at, making those changes. but having that personalised plan will make a difference if you can afford that.
Yeah.
And of course, the fact is that it's not about how you feel today; it's how you're going to feel in 4 months when you stood on the start line. That's
always have
important.
that in mind. Always have that in mind. We had a good question from Bud Lynch on YouTube. Thanks very much, Bud, for tuning in live. Running the South Downs Way half marathon tomorrow. I'm guessing that's not flat. Will be my first trail run. Any tips, as I've only run on roads? Firstly, don't worry about time. It's my biggest shout out to you. Just go there, have some fun. It's gonna be up and down. It's gonna be rolling. It's gonna be all over the place. Take the time out of the equation and just enjoy it. Is my biggest tip to you. Unless you, Al, you got anything to add to that?
No, I think enjoy it. South Downs, I assume, will be a pretty spectacular route. There'll be some ups and downs and plenty of views. I think trail running for me, I find it always a little bit harder. So be easy on yourself in terms of your times. Don't go out too fast too soon. Hydrate and fuel. Many of these trail runs are self-supported, so make sure you've gone out well equipped with plenty of snacks.
Tobe, I'm going to throw this one to you. Fairly new runner, will be training for a half marathon. Should I train to time or distance? Go.
I'd go time. Start off with. So I wouldn't pressure yourself to too much distance. I'll get a plan with set some times on it and make sure you take those easy runs nice and easy within that time, and the hard ones set it to that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Time. If it's your first one, I alluded to it earlier. Just run to time. It's much easier in terms of end product, end goal. I think it's a nicer way. It's less imposing on your mind, less taxing. Thinking, oh Christ, I've got to run 10 miles this week. I've got to run for an hour. Sounds a little bit easier than that. I think that always scares life out. Winning inters need more stability content, please. There's more coming. I think we do a good job of getting stability content on the channel. Since I'm only a mild stability shoe wearer,
we are pretty stable.
Yeah, we do try and get some stability stuff on there. I'm filming Sunday the Tempest. A lot of love for the Tempest video from Saucony. That's coming out on Monday because we're wearing them on Sunday. Actually, talking about Sunday, big shout out. So let's just talk about that quickly. If you're going to be heading or anywhere near Essex, come and join us on Sunday. Mind you, if you're listening to this on your long run on the podcast, you probably missed it. But anyway, we're having a big picnic. We're doing a half marathon, but more importantly, we're going for a big picnic, which is just amazing. I'm so excited about it. Not the running bit. I couldn't really give 2 hoops about that. It's more of seeing people. Like I said, we've got so many strong memories from Southend, and I think the friendships we've made, relationships that have been made from the community, from the club, from the group, people forget about that. They take it now almost probably for granted that they've now got all these friends and stuff like that they've met through the group, and it's a testament to what they put into it. And the COVID pandemic really, I think, cemented all that because everybody was online chatting and stuff. And it's just incredible to see those friendships, those relationships come back together at Southend, but also new ones forged. And that's the key to it, is to bring people who may have not been to something that we've done on a larger scale. So like we did before in Great North Run, and we're going to try and do again this year and stuff like that, and try and do more and more of. To come along to one of these things where more of us get together, like at Vitality, and you meet up with these people that you chat with or interact with online, and then you build those friendships that I just said about, and all that all those relationships off of that, and but it's great, and it brings new people together, and that's the most amazing thing about all this stuff that we do, whether it's here on the podcast and people are saying, people chatting about the podcast, you've got a mutual thing in common that you both listen to the podcast, or you are go to a satellite group, or you are a solo runner but you're an affiliated member of the club, or you're in Mongolia and you do listen to this nonsense that we talk about, or you watch on YouTube. Don't forget the YouTube community. We've got 25,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and they all chat and amongst themselves in the comments. So it's great to have these opportunities to bring everybody together, new and old, I think is the key. But I'm just excited because there's people I haven't seen for 2.5 years. And I'm just excited to turn Southend pink, to make a lot of noise, right? Just to pre-warn everybody who's going to be within a 30-mile radius of Southend, I'm going to be more loud than normal on Sunday, which most people find annoying. I appreciate that, but it's because I'm excited. So just bear with me. We are doing the warm-up, and I expect a full 40 contingent. Anybody not warming up will get punished. Al will think of something. So it's going to be mandatory, the warm-up.
What? Old vegan pizza.
Yeah, we give you vegan pizza if you don't warm up afterwards. We've got the club has put his hand in its pocket, which is great, and given some money. The club's not set up to make money. The club doesn't generate income. It pays everything it gets pretty much to England Athletics. It charges £1 admin fee. So the money any money that's left over has been spent to give out to like leaders and stuff like that, and put people through courses and stuff through grants that we've got. But the club has put money from the kitty that's in there. It's not much, but towards drinks and some nibbles, I think. Helen's been amazing and organised that. So that's going to be great. So that's important. So if you're around, you don't have to be part of the club. You don't have to be part of the community. We don't give a monkeys if you're I'm going to get this wrong, a Southend Flyer or a Benfleet Bomber, I don't know what they're called. Wherever you are, you're all welcome. We don't really care at 40 Runs. We're all about bringing everyday runners together. We don't care how fast or slow you are, as long as you're not one of those people who tells everybody how fast you are, because that can be annoying, Toby. No, everybody's welcome. We don't care, honestly. Just everybody come up, have a good time. And if you can't make this one, we're going to hopefully do another big one up in Newcastle. I know Alan has obviously upset everybody in Newcastle today. And I
won't be there. Don't worry.
Yeah, he won't be there. So
he won't be there. But yeah, we're going to try and do something again in Newcastle for everybody else. So yeah, please come along. Al, I don't know if you've got anything you want to add.
Yeah. In terms of Southend particularly, please come and say hello if you're kind of on the margins and you're a little bit shy. I see lots of comments in Facebook after races saying, "Oh, I saw you guys and I wasn't sure whether to come and say hello." Please come and say hello. You won't regret it, I guarantee. And to put it in context of my experience of the community, and I made reference at the start that it was Southend back in 2018 where I first met Chris. Last weekend, Jubilee weekend, I was lucky enough to be able to be at 3 different races in Hertfordshire, Hampshire and Kent. And I met FORDYs at all of those and was able to chat and, be part of a community that I wouldn't have experienced if I hadn't said hello to Chris back in 2018. So I joke about it's transformed my life, but it certainly has in some real positive ways. And I just encourage people just to jump in, put aside your nervousness, come and say hello. There'll be someone that you can talk to. So please
come and talk to me, because no one will be talking to me, because I'll be standing there on my own probably, because
being very loud, everyone giving you a wide
everyone
berth.
gets upset and just walks and leaves me on my own because they're thinking, oh, he's so loud. Come and talk to me, because I'll need someone to talk to. Now I echo ours. It's the same for me, Al. I meet all these different people at these different races, all these friends and people that I've met over the years, and you guys, seriously, I just love you all to death. It's just incredible, absolutely incredible, the people I've met and the friendships I've made. Just, for example, you 4 boys, you 3 guys. So, that just tells you everything you need to know. So, yeah, please don't be shy. Please come along if you can't make this one. And maybe when we do the live podcast show at one theatre, because we've obviously got a lot of people after us to come to do the O2, the Palladium. Now Britain's Got Talent's not on, to do a live version of this in front of a live audience. We expect you all to be. I think we should do that, boys. I think we should just do it, right? Just do. I ain't going to charge him. We ain't going to do what's his face does, and they get Michael Mack, not Mike, whoever it is, those big podcasts. We just find somewhere and we just do a live version of this and just get people in. It'd be hilarious. What's the worst that could happen? Do you know what I mean? So
let us know.
Email in at something.com if you want us to do a free show near you of the Long Run podcast. We'll jump in Toby's milk float.
Yeah, if you've got a venue and you want us to come, we don't care if it's your front room.
Yeah, we don't care. We'll come to your front room and do this.
We'll come to your front room and do the pod.
Yeah, we don't care. Might as well, mightn't we?
Depends if they want anyone else in the front room as with us.
Yeah, there is that as well. And make sure you've emptied all your cupboards if Speedgoat comes, just as a heads up.
Have the takeaway menus ready. That's all I'm saying.
Food. That's all we care about.
There's still more questions, guys. Right, I tell you what, quick fire questions before we go. We've got less than 5 minutes. Al, what have we got? There's probably shoe ones in there, I'm guessing.
Oh, you've put me on the spot now. I've got to find them. Someone runs in Adidas Ultra Boost but looking for something new. What recommendations to transition?
Ultra Boost? Oh, blimey, it must have been like running concrete boots. How long have you been running in them for? I'd say anything. Anything's better than those. Terrible things. They're about those Ultra Boost 22 weigh as much as this house. So anything you buy, even a pair of Brooks from 1987, will be an improvement over those. So that's an easy one, isn't it?
Yeah. James Henderson, it's not so much a question, but I got some advice. He takes out a group running, tries to do it easy pace, but he can't get them to run slow enough. Make them talk, or worse still, make them sing to the group. Bit silly, but try those little tips that kind of force you into having to run slow. Pair them up and then switch partners, so they have to tell a story to the other one by the time they get to halfway, and the other one has to tell the new partner that story. That's a great one of doing, because then it's chatty, and then they have to slow down. Robert Hallam's a shift worker, often working 12-hour days and then nights, and can find it difficult to fit in the right balance. Some advice there was, don't get tied into the 7-day week. I've got a couple of clients that, like you, Robert, and I'm encouraging them to think differently about their training plan. I want to look across the effort across a 16 or 18-week program rather than on a day-by-day, week-by-week, because life gets in the way. So think imaginatively, think creatively about when you do your runs and how you do your runs, and factor in things like your sleeping patterns, your fueling, because it will be different for you guys and girls that are working. They're not the traditional 9 till 5. So think outside the box would be my advice on that one. Yeah. Is it a last question? I think this is the best question to finish today's show. And I'll hand over to you, Wilco. From David, YouTube, massive fan of the show. Is pink scientifically proven to make you run faster? Yes. Over to you, Wilco.
Wow, what a finish. Thank you very much for joining us again this week. If you've got any questions, or you might put a question out and we didn't have time to get round to it today because we had so many, stick them on an email, longrunshow@gmail.com, all the way through the week. I'll check them at regular intervals and we'll try and include as many as possible. So please drop them in. We are back next week at 7 o'clock when the boys will be reflecting on the wonderful time that they undoubtedly will have at the Southend Half Marathon. Big thank you to Skechers for their support. And please write us a review. Let us know what you think. Drop us a line. Put your reviews on your podcast provider of choice, whether it's Apple, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you go. Don't forget, you're invited to a birthday party next week.
Massive.
7 o'clock.
And email Friday in if you want a birthday special intro, because I've got 2 minutes to spare next week.
And send an email and we can discuss cake delivery.
Yeah, who's sending us donuts? You've got to send in 4 places, remember?
So thanks ever so much for people. Remember, you can catch us on Facebook and YouTube live at 7 o'clock on a Friday night, but via your usual podcast providers. You can download us, take us on your long run. Have a great weekend this weekend. Lots of love to everybody going down to Southend, particularly. Whatever race you're doing, take care, do your best, hydrate, fuel properly, behave yourself, and have a great time. And we will see you here next week at 7 o'clock. Thanks very much. Titles, please, mate.